we go.
Right.
Marva, what do you think? Do you think that Prince Harry should check everything via Mike?
No, I think Mike Parry is just talking a whole lot of nonsense, to be truthful. I totally agree with Yasmin.
Do you think that because some people would argue that actually he has a responsibility to Britain to, help out with charities here, to do work with the royal family, to create that soft power. And actually what he's done is not only abandoned his post, but sort of crumbled that institution, which gave Britain that soft power we talk about all the time.
No, he's got a loyalty to himself. First and foremost, he's got a loyalty to himself.
Well, that's not a good thing, is it, Marva? That's not a good thing. You're right, he's got a loyalty to himself. He opts out the British royal family, but then suddenly announces, I'm going on a royal tour of Australia.
No, it's not a royal tour.
It's been billed as a royal tour, hasn't it? You know full well it's been billed as a royal tour.
Check your facts.
So you haven't read a headline saying it's a royal tour?
Oh, yeah. This is the popular press here which hates Harry.
Marva, what about the accusations that he's just spilling the beans on the royal family? That, so he left, he's no longer a working royal and he doesn't get some of the privileges involved with that. But actually, all the money he has made since has been on the basis that he is the son of the king.
Absolutely.
And the reputation that gives him.
Well, if people want to think that he's made his money off the back of his father, I just totally don't agree with that. I am positive why Harry is not in the royal fold is because that Meghan was just too dark for the establishment. I totally agree with what Harry has done. He moved away. There's one life to live and he's living it.
It's interesting you think that there's a racist element to this, because actually this is an element an argument that we've heard quite a lot. Yasmin, where do you stand on this? And the reason I'm asking you is because he has now come out and basically said he didn't want to be part of the royal family since that moment he had to walk behind that coffin, since the moment that his mother died. Do you think that might shine a better light on why he left?
Well, life is not just one moment, isn't it? Is it? I mean, remember, the royal family, as was and is, there were lots of victims. The Queen's sister Margaret was destroyed by the fact that she wasn't allowed to marry the man she loved. And she ended up a drunk and extremely promiscuous and deeply hurt and wounded. And the Queen herself, put up with Prince Philip's interesting friendships with younger women. And
alleged.
We are now in an age where we are not prepared to do that. Okay, so I think life isn't just one moment. I also read, and I might be wrong, but I'm sure I read this, that soon after Harry was born, we're talking about a day or something like that, Charles went off to see Camilla.
Yeah, there's a rumour going around that he went to the bedside and said, "Good, we now have a spare." Essentially, we now have a spare.
The hurt was accumulative.
And then with the wife, he hasn't just disappeared. What he has done, he's kind of stayed.
And you know what? Let me very quickly say,
on the back of the royal family.
5 months before they married, 5 months before Harry and Meghan married, I wrote a 3,000-word piece for the Times magazine in the US, saying you don't know the family you're coming into and you don't know the country you're coming into. And the last lines were, the only way they will survive is if they leave. This was 5 months before they married. You can check it out.
Let's go to...
You know what's fascinating? Every single time the media tries to paint Prince Harry as reckless, selfish, or somehow abandoning duty, someone from the public steps forward and completely flips the narrative. And this time, it wasn't a celebrity, it wasn't a royal insider, it was an older caller, calm, clear, and absolutely unapologetic. And what she said? It cut straight through years of media spin. Let's talk about Marva, because what she did on live television was say what millions of people have been thinking, but rarely get the platform to express. She didn't hesitate, she didn't sugarcoat, she simply said, Harry has a loyalty to himself. And that right there, that's the part the critics don't want you to focus on. Because for years now, the narrative has been carefully crafted. That Harry abandoned the royal family, that he turned his back on Britain, that he owes something to an institution that, according to many accounts, didn't protect him. But Marva flipped that entire argument on its head. She said, first and foremost, he owes loyalty to himself, not to tradition, not to outdated expectations, not to a system that demands silence over truth, to himself. And you could feel the tension in the studio when she said it, because suddenly the conversation shifted from duty to humanity. And that's where things get uncomfortable for the critics. Let's break this down. Because what does loyalty to yourself actually mean in this context? It means recognizing when something is damaging you and choosing to walk away. It means understanding that just because you were born into something doesn't mean you're obligated to sacrifice your mental health, your family, or your happiness for it. And let's be honest, if this was anyone else, if this was you, would anyone be telling you to stay in an environment that you felt was toxic? But because it's Prince Harry, suddenly the rules change. Suddenly self-preservation becomes betrayal. Suddenly choosing your wife and children becomes abandoning duty. And Marva wasn't having any of that. She called out the criticism for exactly what it sounds like: noise. She even dismissed one of the loudest critics in the discussion as talking a whole lot of nonsense. And honestly, that's the energy more people are starting to bring into these conversations. Because the talking points we've been hearing for years, they're starting to fall apart. Take this argument that Harry has somehow abandoned Britain. Really? Because last time we checked, he hasn't disappeared. He's still doing charity work. He's still using his platform. He's still engaging with global causes. He's just doing it on his own terms. And that's what really bothers people. Not that he left, but that he left and thrived. Because think about it, if Harry had left and failed, the narrative would be very different. It would be, see, he needed the royal family. But he didn't fail. He built a new life. He created new opportunities. He continued his humanitarian work globally. And suddenly, the criticism had to evolve. Now it's, oh, he's only successful because of his father. He's making money off his title. He shouldn't be doing international visits. But Marva addressed that too. She made it clear she does not agree with the idea that Harry's success is simply borrowed. And that's a crucial point, because yes, Harry was born into privilege. No one denies that. But what he's done since stepping away, that's on him. Let's not forget, walking away from one of the most powerful institutions in the world is not the easy route. It's the risky one. It's the uncertain one. It's the one that comes with backlash, criticism, and constant scrutiny. And yet, he chose it anyway. Why? Because, as Marva said, there's one life to live, and he's living it. Now let's talk about the part of her statement that really made people pause. Because she didn't just defend Harry's decision, she went further. She suggested that race played a role, that Meghan Sussex being too dark for the establishment may have been a factor in why things unfolded the way they did. Now, whether people agree with that or not, you cannot deny that this conversation has been happening for years. And it didn't come out of nowhere. It came from patterns, from headlines, from commentary, from the way Meghan was treated compared to others. And again, the discomfort in the studio was noticeable. Because once that door is opened, you can't easily close it. But here's what's important. Marva wasn't speaking from a place of anger. She was speaking from observation, from lived experience, from seeing how institutions historically have treated people who don't fit a certain mould. And suddenly the narrative becomes bigger than just Harry. It becomes about who gets accepted, who gets protected, and who gets pushed out. And that's when the conversation shifted again, because the hosts tried to bring it back to responsibility, to duty, to the idea that Harry somehow owes Britain his presence, his service, his loyalty. But here's the problem with that argument. Duty is not a one-way street. If an institution expects loyalty, it also has to offer support, protection, respect. And when those things break down, the expectation of blind loyalty starts to crumble. Now, another interesting moment in the discussion came when they brought up Harry's past, his childhood, the trauma of losing his mother, Princess Diana, walking behind her coffin in front of the world. And let's be real for a second, that's not just a moment. That's something that shapes you, that stays with you, that influences how you see the world, how you trust, how you process institutions and public life. And as one of the commentators pointed out, life isn't just one moment, it's cumulative. It's layers upon layers of experiences, pressures, expectations. And for Harry, those layers include growing up in the spotlight, being labelled the spare, watching how his mother was treated, experiencing media intrusion firsthand, and then seeing history repeat itself with his wife. So when people ask, why did he leave? Maybe the better question is, how could he not? And this is where the conversation becomes real, because it stops being about headlines and starts being about human choices. Marva understood that. She didn't get caught up in technicalities or media framing. She looked at the situation for what it is, a man choosing his own path. And let's talk about this idea of Harry continuing his work internationally. Because critics love to twist this. They say, oh, he left the royal family but still does royal-style tours. But here's the reality. Doing humanitarian work globally is not exclusive to royalty. It never was. You don't need a crown to care about people. You don't need a title to make an impact. What Harry is doing now is using his platform independently. And if anything, that makes his work more authentic. Because it's not tied to obligation, it's tied to choice, and that's powerful. Now let's address the elephant in the room. Why does this bother people so much? Because Harry represents something uncomfortable. He represents the idea that you can walk away from expectation, from tradition, from pressure, and still build something meaningful. And for some people, that's threatening, because it challenges the belief that you have to stay, that you have no choice, that you owe everything to the system you were born into. But Harry's story says otherwise, and voices like Marva's, they amplify that message. And here's the thing, she's not alone. More and more people, especially older generations, are starting to speak out in support. People who have lived long enough to recognize when something doesn't add up. People who understand that life is too short to live it for someone else's expectations. There's one life to live. That line? It's simple, but it hits hard because at the end of the day, that's what this is all about. Not titles, not headlines, not media narratives, life, and how you choose to live it. So the next time you hear someone say, Harry should have stayed. Harry owes the royal family. Harry abandoned his duty. Ask yourself this. Would you? Would you stay in a system that you felt didn't support you? Would you ignore your instincts, your experiences, your reality, just to meet expectations? Or would you do exactly what Harry did? Because whether people want to admit it or not, That's the real question at the heart of this debate. And Marva? She already answered it, loud and clear. If you made it this far, you already see what's really going on behind the headlines. This isn't just about Harry, it's about truth versus narrative. So, if you want more real conversations like this, more breakdowns that cut through the noise, make sure you hit that subscribe button right now. Like the video, share your thoughts in the comments. I read them all, and let's keep this conversation going. Because, trust me, this story, it's far from over.